Okay, so let's start talking about what to expect as you start having some new conversations with people. I want to remind you again that you need to be willing to get it wrong so you can learn how to get it right. This will not go perfectly from conversation number one. There will be some things that you kind of flub up along the way or that you maybe get a little mixed up. It's just because of old patterns and old things. You're learning new things. So it is okay to get it wrong. You have to be able to practice. Your emotions, your nervous system, everything will feel a little bit wacky, but that is okay. It's totally normal. There's nothing wrong with you if you feel that way, right? This is just the normal process of how it's going to work, but it will get better and it will get easier. So, again, leading up to the conversation, you'll feel a lot of the anxiety coming up because of the uncertainty. You have no idea how this conversation is going to go. And in your brain, your brain wants to be really, really prepared for what's going to happen. And it wants to be able to plan out the whole scenario and it wants to make all kinds of assumptions. But there is a lot of uncertainty, which your brain knows, which is why you feel this nervousness and anxiety, right? So, again, this is absolutely normal. And I like to say you can bring this with you. It is okay to have this conversation while being nervous. You can hold anxiety and have the conversation. You don't have to get rid of these feelings or learn how to process through them or whatever, heal them before having the conversation. You can come into it nervous. And some of this healing can be done in the process, or, just be alert to what these feelings are and just recognize that they're there and it's okay. They're trying to protect you and that is fine. But what they're trying to protect you from is more of like a saber-toothed tiger scenario than actually what is happening. So just understand it's just kind of your natural nervous system way and do it anyway. Right. So another thing that I know I used to have an issue with, and sometimes still do if it's a really hard conversation, is that I would forget what I wanted to say as soon as my emotions started getting the better of me. The logic that I had had in practice previously would completely fly out the window, and I'd have no clue what I was trying to say anymore. And then the conversation would derail completely and go in a whole different direction that I didn't want to. And then generally, the point that I wanted to make was never actually made, right? So feel free to prepare ahead of time. Write down the main topics, write down notes that you want to discuss, things that you want to make sure that you say, because that will help you to keep this in mind, to keep kind of the general idea in mind of what you're trying to accomplish, and to keep things, when you see it derailing, you can sort of rein it back in and talk about what's really important to you. And remember to bring a sense of curiosity with you, right? So you can participate in the conversation and watch what's happening. So I always like to say that there are like three sides to the story when there's a conversation happening between two people. So there's your side, there's the other person's side, and then there is what is actually happening, which acknowledges both sides at the same time and really tries to see a sense of truth over the whole thing, right? So if you can just imagine yourself as you're having a conversation, imagine yourself hovering over it at the same time to really try to be aware and present to what is happening, right? So when you have that curiosity and you have that awareness, you can pay attention to what is happening. And then you might be able to see things a little bit more clearly from their side as well. You might notice some interesting things there, but always be curious, because after the conversation is over, you'll want some of the information, some of the things that you paid attention to. You're going to want to know that so you can recognize maybe how to do this better next time or what to look out for next time. So you also have to check your expectations before you go in, right? So it probably won't go the way that you expect it to. And this is good or bad. You're going to envision all kinds of ways that this is going to go before you jump into it. You're going to have all these imaginings of, maybe you'll have, okay, if it goes really good, then I would expect that they would say this or they would react in this certain way. Or maybe you're fearing the worst and you think they're going to blow up and things are going to be terrible. And it may honestly not be any of the ways that you think. Like, you might think that you've thought of every single way and scenario that this could go, and then get totally surprised by how they react, because truly you don't ever, ever, ever know what somebody else is thinking. So just go into it knowing and being open to the fact that this can go in any sorts of ways, and it's okay. Like, you'll be able to handle it and you will be fine no matter how this goes. And also be aware and expect that you'll probably fall back on some old patterns. So if you know that you get worked up about a certain topic, or if you know you get triggered by a certain thing that they might say, notice that you'll probably fall back on these patterns. And that's totally normal as well. As you go through any learning process, that's going to keep happening. Again, it's like the rubber band stretching, right? And eventually, sometimes it contracts and it goes back, and then you learn more, and then it can expand more from there, right? So until you keep practicing enough to change it, this is what's going to happen. But you have to keep pushing through these old patterns and keep trying again. And then eventually new patterns will arise that are a little bit healthier and that you find to be a lot more beneficial. So also, don't enter any conversation ever with anybody expecting them to change or demanding that they change. This conversation, boundary setting, is only about you. It is about the way that you want to experience your life, and anything saying that they have to change in order to make you happier isn't ever going to make the conversation go the right way. The way that you need to speak is more from a sense of, here are the needs that I have that need to be met, and I am feeling like they aren't being met at this time. And then giving the person an opportunity to meet them if they would like, right? And that would be great. That would be wonderful if they can do that, or give them the opportunity to say that they can't, or to recognize that they might not be able to, and then have them react to that. Like, have them say what they can or can't do for you. And then knowing whatever action you take from there is up to you, right? So if they say that they can't meet a need that you have, you setting the boundary might be you walking away from it, or you handling things, or not engaging with them in conversations anymore, or maybe it's a friendship thing. There's so many different scenarios. It's impossible for me to list all the examples of how this could go, but just always remember that it's about you, and you can't tell anybody else how to live. So if you notice that somebody is doing something in a way that you don't agree with, and it has even nothing to do with you, you just don't like what they're doing, you have to let them do it. You have to let them live their life. And any sense of judgment over what they're doing is not going to be helpful. It's not good for them. It's not good for you. So if the way that they're acting is damaging to them and it's feeling damaging to you, you might need to separate yourself from the situation. So again, lots of scenarios of this, the way that this could go. Reach out to me if you need help, or into the community or whatever. But again, you're clarifying your boundaries. So as you're speaking your truth about you, the reaction that they have is only about them. The reaction they have is not about you either. It's only about how they're perceiving the situation and what's going on inside of them. So also, though, you do have to be open to their side of the story, because sometimes the assumptions that we make are incorrect. I find that like 98% of the time that I am upset with my husband for something, it ends up being a misunderstanding. And I either read the situation wrong, I wasn't paying attention, I didn't hear something that happened, or his intentions aren't at all what I thought they were, that I was getting mad about. So getting to the root of the issue and hearing their side of the story to try to clear up any assumptions you have is really important if you want this communication and this relationship to stay strong, and that it's coming from a very loving place. It's really, really easy to clear up assumptions, and to really, basically what you're trying to do is like open up the vulnerability to say, I might be wrong. So tell me, this is how I'm experiencing things. You tell me if that's accurate or not, or is there something else that I need to know? So there is no worksheet for this section, but there's a lot to consider here. So please make sure that you come into the community to ask for some support. If you have an upcoming conversation that you want to have, then make sure, come in and request help or advice, or ask questions, or share any breakthroughs. If there's some things that you've learned here that you're like, oh, I can see exactly why this has not been going quite the way that I want to, and now I can see how I want to do this moving forward, share with us, and let everybody know what you're thinking, and it might be able to help them as well. So in the next video, the second one, we'll be talking about being vulnerably honest, which is a topic I absolutely love. And I can't wait to see you there.